don't know why these videos are so difficult for me. This series of 3 has been probably the most difficult. I've been putting off recording this one, but I need to finish out There's one aspect of the part 3 that I can't, very unlike me, I can't talk about one part of this because I need to talk to Laura about how to broach that subject. So normally I'm, completely open about everything, and I do want to be, and I will be. But there's just, I need to make sure we've talked about we've talked about not talking about this bit for various reasons, but I want to put it in there. But for now, this video, I'm going to have to skip over one part of it. So where did we get to? The house. So I think we got to recap, Alfie's assessments and then ultimate diagnosis cracked me a little bit. Then the house cracked a little bit more. And then at the beginning of this year, well, I should skip back a little bit. Towards the end of last year, before the house turned a corner, as I talked about before, the medical profession, the autism industrial complex, knock you over the head with, you have to do this 40 hours a week of therapy. For your 2-year-old, when do they get a chance to be a kid? Which they do for profit, and I'm going to talk about that in another video, because this makes me extraordinarily angry and I need to talk about it, but that's for a different time. So the house was getting to its worst point when it really fell apart. And I never would do this now, and I, looking back on it, I even regret the week that we did it for. Everyone was telling us we're bad parents if we don't do ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis. I didn't know this at the time, but ABA was invented by the same guy that invented gay conversion therapy. And it's the same techniques. It's teaching your child to not appear autistic at any cost. So bearing in mind, I'm already losing it a little bit. I don't know at this point that I'm autistic. So being that I'm autistic, when we started ABA therapy, something in me just went, ugh. Something in me sensed some evil. I can't explain it, but I watched the first or second session and something inside me just was like, this is wrong. So it's basically, it's the same concepts as gay conversion therapy. So they sit your child at a table. You have to you have to point to match these 2 cards. If you do it, you get a treat. If you don't do it, I'm going to be a little bit standoffish to you. And I'm going to keep going relentlessly. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Treat if you do it. Do this, I'm going to be standoffish if you don't. Originally, that I'm going to be standoffish if you don't was literal screaming in the kid's face in the 60s. They even used electric shock therapy in the I am so guilty about even doing this for a week. I didn't know anything about it. It was just feared into us that we were bad parents unless we did this therapy. The people that come to your house to do it have had 16 hours of training. They haven't finished, they don't have to have finished high school. They're underpaid, they're overworked, and they don't really care about the job, obviously. And these are the people that spend 40 hours a week with your kid. And these ABA people bill insurance companies for millions. Anyway, so on top of everything else, I'm starting to feel this real this is bad. What this therapy is bad. And we caught the therapist. We said one thing, we had all these rules. And one of them was, we don't want you to use food as a method of getting the kid to do something. Because that's what they do. It's literal dog treats. Food. There you go. If you do it, you get food. It's fucking insane, actually, talking about it now. I should have known. So anyway, that was our big thing. Don't use food as a reinforcer. We don't want him to have food issues. The therapist lied. Well, that's unusual for one of my videos. And edit. I don't normally edit because I think it's like inauthentic to edit. I spent so long making these sketches and editing, and now I hate it and I don't want to edit. So this is unusual. The camera stopped recording because I think this card is full up. So it just stopped. So I put another card in. So anyway, we discovered the therapist was lying. She was using mangoes as a way to stop him, to make him go different ways around the block. So then we get the world's leading, because of our online presence, of course, these people want to get on your channel. So we were like hounded by a certain person who was supposed to be an authority on it. And they came out, and it was a cluster F of just trying to get Alfie to match a card, putting a movie on for him, giving him a treat. It was insane. And she was doing it all quickly. And Alfie's head is spinning. And we're like, what are you doing? Leave the kid alone. She's like, no, he must comply. He must comply. And I was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done. This is out. This is ridiculous. I'm done. This was super traumatic for me. And I didn't realize at the time, it was super traumatic and triggering for me because I'm autistic. And I could feel what that boy was going through. So we got the assessments, the Zoom assessments, where they all said he was really, I don't want to go into, well, you can watch the video. The diagnosis, the house, and then this insanity. And I'm trying to keep the house on track. And there's these idiots trying to work with Alfie. And I'm getting trouble at home because I'm going to the house every day. And Laura's mum has one idea about what Alfie should be doing. We have one idea about what Alfie should be doing. These weird therapists have it. It's so confusing. And so that was another thing that I didn't mention. So we had all this. And I'm going to make a video about ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis. As I say, invented by the same guy that did gay conversion therapy. It's pushed on parents. Says you're a bad parent if you don't do it. I'll get into that later. So the house gets finished, and I just feel different. I can't find joy. I think I feel damaged. I feel like I've been through the ringer and I expected to come out the other end, and all my hopes were pinned on the house. I was like, once that house is done, it's the house that's causing all the problems. That's what I told myself. This is all because of the house. Once that house is finished, I magically feel different. The house got finished, I didn't feel any different. And that kind of spun me into a little bit of anxiety and like, what the hell now? So that was my... 5 months ago? 6 months ago. So, I started to just go into my own, because the real world wasn't behaving as I wanted it to. I started disappearing into my own world. I started shutting myself off, shutting down. And Laura noticed that I would just shut down. She said it was stonewalling, but I just started to emotionally shut down. I hadn't been to meetings during the pandemic. I didn't have a sponsor, so I wasn't talking to anyone in the program. I had Dr. Amen saw me through some sought me through some really single events of me losing it. I would call him and he would help me sort that out. But I wasn't telling him about the underlying stuff that I'm telling you about now. Just the overall shutdown. And I sort of retreated into an imaginary world where, I don't know, I felt like I detached from reality. And as that happened, I started to become obsessive and addictive again. Like I didn't want to use drugs or drink, but the other stuff came back. The obsession, the lying, the finding escape from my life in whatever way I could that wasn't drugs or drinking. Obsession and just going into my fantasy world and just shutting down the real world, like disappearing into an interior life that I wonder if there's a psychological term for this. I'll ask my therapist. I think there is. I think it's disassociating or whatever. But basically, I disappeared into a world that wasn't real. And that's when I started to, as like you would say from the outside, perhaps that I was losing it. Because I started to disappear into this fantasy world that wasn't real, where I didn't want to accept anything. That and that combined with, it's crazy thinking about it. So I got into extreme financial fear because of the two houses now, losing a ton of money on the other house because the contractor stole it. And just, I started to really dislike. I mean, we started making Facebook videos in 2015, and we were one of the first people to do it. And it was a good platform for a while, but it started to change, and I was finding it a very toxic place, and I didn't like to hang out there. Like now, I love YouTube and I love TikTok and Instagram, but this is amazing for me. But I started to not enjoy making the content. I didn't enjoy doing the comedy. I love making the music, but that was the only thing I was holding on to. I felt like we were making comedy to pay the bills because of financial fear, if I'm completely honest. And it was a whole, like, I got myself into such a state, but I wasn't talking. That was the key thing about this. I wasn't telling anyone how bad it was, and I wasn't telling people. I was out of my meetings. I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't telling Dr. Amen. And I couldn't be present with my kids, which was killing me because I was just wanting to go into I had properly lost it, is what I'm saying. I properly lost the plot. But I was trying to keep it together and look like I hadn't lost the plot. And the last few months, I feel like I was so disassociated from the last few months. It doesn't feel real. Before what happened, before that day. I get in snatches of things that happen, but none of it really seems real. And then there was an incident that I can't talk about yet, but I will, and I'll speak to Laura and I will talk about it in a way that's respectful. And then we arrived at the actual day. So it just built up and built up, piling on, and me going into a fantasy world, disassociating. And then one of the people that, this is OCD, looking at that to make sure it's recording, I realised. Anyway, so you know what, it's too difficult. I can't go into it, it's too difficult. I can't keep going, this is too difficult. I guess it'll be another part tomorrow because I can't do this anymore today. I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and come back tomorrow and I'll try and finish this. I love you and thank you. You guys actually saved my life, because you'll find out tomorrow anyway. I love you guys. Let's speak tomorrow.